Welcome back. Always happy to be joined by Mike Welch from the Daily Racing Forum. Usually when we have him, the back's, clear court is behind us. Now it's the paddock at Gulfstream. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Tough act to follow after Doug O'Neill. Who wants to listen to me?
Well, we'll get some good workout advice from you. Certainly we get a lot of good tips and thoughts up at Saratoga. The workout information continues down here. And I read you either tweeted or it was the DRF Live. The latest Clocker report has some good info as well on Nyquist from Santa Anita from Gary Young.
Right, yeah, we use Gary at the Breeders' Cup. He's terrific. Everybody knows Gary's reputation, and he's kind enough to forward me a couple of reports on Nyquist's last two works. I got to watch him on the tape, but it's not the same as being there. Gary's followed this horse, so we will add that to our regular report tomorrow, which is going to be a big one.
Yeah, and highly recommended for sure. Now, you've seen Nyquist since he's arrived here. You're over here on the front side. He's been out the past few mornings kind of getting the lay of the land on the track. How's he look?
He looks fine. I mean, his gallop, I only saw him gallop once. That was yesterday. They jogged him the day before. They jogged him this morning. He looked terrific galloping. He has gotten a little hot in the morning. It's humid here. He's coming from a different climate. So you could probably give him a base on balls on that. He was not as warm today as he was yesterday and the day before, so maybe he's starting to acclimate. I'd keep an eye on him going to the paddock and see how he is, but Doug doesn't seem concerned about it, so if he's not concerned, I won't be concerned. I did ask Gary about it. He said he gets a little warm out there at California, not overly warm. This is probably a little more than usual for him. But again, you're coming to South Florida at this time of year, and it's been humid. So, we keep an eye on it. But we've seen horses get hot before and win big races. Orb did it before the Florida Derby, and of course Shackelford before the Preakness looked like he'd been through the car wash, and he still won. So every horse is an individual. So
was Orb the shug horse that really got crazy?
Yeah, Orb really got hot that day. But some horses, that's just them, and if they don't do it, sometimes you get concerned. So we'll see, but we'll watch him tomorrow when he comes out and see how he handles the big crowd here and the new surroundings. I mean, that's one of the things about this race. You got a horse coming from the West Coast into a new environment, and you've got Mohaymen, who's been here a couple of times, likes the track, is used to this paddock, is used to this crowd, doesn't have to, just shipping down the road. So there are some advantages there, built-in advantages that Mohaymen will have over Nyquist in this matchup, at least this first matchup.
And let's talk about Mohaymen now, because you've been here, obviously, throughout the whole season. You're based down here other than the Saratoga season, so you've seen Mohaymen in his races here. You've also, one of the clockers was up at Palm Meadows for his works. We saw him take a little gallop around the track yesterday when we were up there. It looked pretty good doing that. But give us your thoughts on Mohaymen.
Well, I asked Mike Vesey yesterday, and he's as good a clocker as there is around, and he's got a terrific eye. And, he thought going into his last race, Mohaymen just looked average, and, he wasn't doing anything special, and, of course, he came out and he won. And I asked him, and he said same thing going into this one. Nothing flashy, but he looks sound, he looks good, he's doing the same kind of routine. So I don't think he's too worried about it. I think, we kind of thought that Kieran might have backed down on him going into that last race. You don't want to, do too many fast races at this time of year. You want to kind of get him to slowly peak. So, and I think he's doing that here too. I mean, he wants him at his best for the Kentucky Derby, although, of course, they'd love to win this race. Both of these guys are walking a fine line here Saturday. You don't want your horse to peak 5 weeks out. You want him to peak on the first Saturday in May. So they both want to win this race, but they don't want to leave their Kentucky Derby race in the tank either.
Yeah, it's that time of year. It's $1 million. It's a grade one. And as Kieran said, grade one is, for the future of the horse, for the stallion career of the horse, that grade one is good. But as you say.
That too. And for Nyquist, they get an extra $1 million. Yeah. So, there's a lot of reasons for both of them to want to win this race. But Kieran had a great quote. He said, I don't want my horse to run the biggest race of his life, the race before the biggest race of his life. Yeah. So, that's what they're dealing with here.
And it's certainly the race goes through Mohaymen and Nyquist, but surprisingly, they got 8 other horses that show up at 10-horse field. Your thoughts on the Florida Derby in general?
Look, there's a couple in there that probably belong. Fellowship certainly belongs, and I can see Mohesto and maybe 1 or 2 of the others, but I just don't like to see them packing a race like this with horses that don't belong and getting away or cause trouble for the horses that do belong. We saw it in the Fountain of Youth, the one horse that really had no business in there and wound up in a 30 claimer the next time out, bore out into the first turn, bumped and took awesome speed completely out of the race and carried Mohaymen out 4 or 5 paths wide. It could have been a lot worse for Mohaymen because he was good enough to recover. But that's the thing you don't want to happen. Horses that are cluttering the field that really shouldn't be in there, and then them causing a problem for the horses that should be.
All right, let's shift our attention a little bit earlier on the card. The Gulfstream Park Oaks. You got a clocker report on the Todd Pletcher horse. First-time Pletcher, first-time Johnny Velasquez, first-time going a distance off the tracks. Who's the morning line favorite?
Look, and this horse has already been terrific in his career, her career. She's 3 for 3. She hasn't been challenged yet. We were really looking forward to a matchup just like we have in the Florida Derby between Off the Track and Catherine Sophia. And no Songbird here, but they might be the second and third best at this point. Who knows? But Catherine Sophia opted to wait for the Grade 1 National next week at Keeneland. So, but Off the Tracks, the one question is the distance. She's never been further than 6.5. This is a mile and a 16th. But my clocker at Palm Beach Downs, Dave Norton, has given this horse excellent reviews coming into this race since she switched to Todd's Bond. So I expect her to be the one to beat. Doug has Gomo in here, who was a Grade 1 winner. So class-wise, you know, she classes up, you know, of course, with Off the Tracks. But she hasn't run since she won the Alcibiades. And I don't know what Doug said to you if you talked to him about it, but she just might need a race coming off the bench. They're pointing for the Kentucky Oaks, just like Todd is with Off the Track, Catherine Sophia, you know, Songbird, the whole lot of them. It's a good crop of 3-year-old fillies this year, too.
And the big win for her was on the slop, which also raises some question marks. That Alcibiades up.
And it was a slow race, too. I mean, the horse that ran second, the Thraki Queen, has really not done that much coming out of the race either. So there's some question marks there on what kind of field she beat that day, too. I mean, it's definitely Off the Track's race to lose. She's going to be 3 to 5, and if she can handle a mile and a 16th and moves forward even further with Todd as her mentor, then she's going to probably be an impressive winner, and she'll go into the Oaks as one of the favorites, undefeated, along with possibly Songbird and, of course, the Catherine Sophia. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a fun division this year, no question about it. I want to hit a couple of news items you tossed out there, Twitter or DRF Live or whatnot, but you had a little report on Awesome Banner, a workout recently, and it looks like the experiment is over there.
Yeah, he's never going 2 turns again. You can bet on that. He was disappointing in the Fountain of Youth. They tried to rate him at Tampa 2 weeks later. That didn't work out. So he's going to be a sprinter the rest of his career. He's had 2 easy works since the Tampa Bay Derby. They're kind of just easing him back into a routine. They have nothing picked out. They're pointing for the Summit of Speed and the Smile Sprint. I'm sorry, there'd probably be the carry back for 3-year-olds later in the summer. And then, you know, if things work out, the King's Bishop, and then maybe onto the Breeders' Cup later. He is a terrific sprinter, but hopefully they didn't empty the tank too much with these 2-turn experiment, and he'll be back to his old self sprinting again by the summer.
I didn't mind the first one. The second one was a little bit of a head scratcher, but
I was really shocked that they came back in 2 weeks, but they wanted to find out now. You know, again, the old saying, you hate to find out you have a good 2-turn 3-year-old in July, you know, so they experiment now, and hopefully the 2 races so close together didn't really knock him out for the rest of the year.
That's the big thing about the 3-year-old season. You're there, everything's on the calendar, and you got to make your move when you can. XY Jet, you have an update on that one? That horse, of course, based down here, was so impressive and kind of took the leadership in the clubhouse, so to speak, in the sprint division earlier. I thought he ran really well in Dubai, but he came back with a ding.
Yeah, he has a little flake in the knee, and whether it affected that race or it happened pulling up, I don't know. He's had knee issues before. So there's a good chance it probably affected him just enough not to win the race. We may not see him back here in Florida. I mean, he was purchased privately, or a majority interest was purchased by Rockingham Farm. They're based in California with Peter Miller. He's going for surgery in Kentucky, and after talking to George Navarro, I think he's leaning to the fact that he's going to wind up out in California with the Breeders' Cup out there this year. I think they're going to send him out to Peter Miller and then try to gear him back up for the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and that'll be through Del Mar and Santa Anita.
Give me your thoughts also, another runner tomorrow that you've seen run, and just, boy, this is a hard knocker. You got to root for him. But in tomorrow's Skipway, Valid, who I was amazed the horse kept going in that last race where he stumbled in the Gulfstream Park Handicap.
Well, he almost got knocked over. Yeah. It's amazing that the rider, Nick Juarez, who stayed in the saddle after getting bumped by Anchor Down, and he came back up, beat about 3.5 lengths. He is the warrior of warriors. Yeah. I mean, you look at his form. I mean, every 4 weeks he goes out there and he runs a terrific race. He's given some of the best horses in the country, Private Zone, and some of these others runs for their money in the big races. He looks like a stick out in this field in the skip-away, as long as that last incident didn't affect him mentally or physically, and it doesn't seem to have physically anyway, talking to Marcus Vitale. So he looks like a single on the card, Valid, as long as he's back to himself. He's way too good for those horses.
And you alluded a second ago to Nick Juarez. I want to get some comments from you, because again, you're based down here. For probably the past month and a half at least, two jockeys have stood out to me. Obviously, Castellano is right up at the top, and the normal guys are up there. But I think Jaramillo and Juarez have really attracted my attention. They're going to be fun, both of them, watching going forward. Jaramillo's not a young guy. He was a champion down in South America. And Juarez is a young guy, but I think they're both, as I say, going to be interesting watching going forward out of the meet.
Jaramillo is really, really good. I mean, to come here for the first time ever into this meet and to be second or third or whatever he's doing as well as he's doing is quite an accomplishment. But you just watch him day in and day out. He's a really good rider. I don't know where he's going. I don't know if they've made up their mind yet. I don't think he's going to stay here, but it would be nice if he stayed here for the summer, because there's not going to be really many top-name jocks in this rider colony after the next week or two. But I'm not sure what their plans are. He could go to Monmouth. He could go to New York. But he belongs wherever he goes. He's very, very good. Nick Juarez has been good, but Jaramillo has been one of the standouts and big surprises of the meet.
Yeah, I thought Juarez, he came down here after, they had a 5-win day up at Laurel on a Monday, and he was down the next weekend down here. And I thought he started out, and as I say, these guys they're not necessarily up at the top because they came, Juarez came later in the meet, but he's just going to be interesting watching going forward, I think. Mike, again, folks can get the workout report through DRF.com?
Mm-hmm. You can still, if you haven't bought it for the whole meet, you can buy it separate just for Saturday's card. I think it's $10 still for the one day. And this is the last weekend we're doing it. Mike and I think we'll put out some DRF live workout stuff for Keeneland and maybe Aqueduct going forward from here on the weekends. But this is the last weekend of the report for this meet. And, again, you can still buy Saturday's report as a single copy for $10.
Great. Mike, it's great to have you on board. It's like on Old Home Week. Walked in the press office. Grenig was there. Into Teresa Gennaro. Phil Janak in the press office. It's like Saratoga South.
Well, I'm marking the days, counting them down until we get up to, I mean, the Derby's next. So, you look forward to the Derby, but the Derby, the Belmont, and then it's on to Saratoga. I can't wait to get up there.
And we got Saratoga weather here. I love it.